What do you do when the person you love betrays you? You teach him what betrayal really feels like. Hi, my name is Chloe, and this is the story of how my heart got shattered, then rebuilt into something sharp enough to cut. Let me start by saying I wasn't always like this. I used to be soft. The kind of girl who brought coffee to her boyfriend's job just because, who baked cookies for his friends, who memorized his mom's birthday and made sure she got a card in the mail every year. That kind of girl. And I thought I had found that kind of guy. His name was Ethan. We met at a rooftop bar in the city, both pretending to be cooler than we really were. He had this easy charm about him, like he knew exactly what to say and when. At first I thought it was luck. Later I realized it was strategy. We clicked. Fast. Within a few months, I moved into his condo. He had this sleek, modern place with way too many mirrors and a wine fridge that made him feel grown up. I felt like I was stepping into the life I had always wanted, at least until the cracks started showing. The first red flag was his phone. He was obsessed with it. Always flipped screen down. Always taking calls in the hallway. Always claiming it was work. But I ignored it because love makes you blind. Or maybe because I didn't want to start being that girlfriend. You know, the suspicious, jealous one. Then came the birthday weekend. I had planned everything. Airbnb in the mountains, wine, fireplace, those cozy matching robes we joked about in bed. But the night before we were supposed to leave, he told me he couldn't go. Something came up at work, he said, not meeting my eyes. Can't be helped? I believed him, or I tried to. That weekend, I stayed home, baked a cake anyway, waited for him to come back so we could still have something. He came back on Sunday night, with glitter on his neck. He said it was from a birthday card. I didn't question it, not out loud. But I remember standing in the kitchen, staring at him, something cold and distant pressing itself against my ribs. That night, I found the receipt. It was in his jacket pocket, a bar tab, a strip club, VIP room, champagne. He didn't even try to lie when I showed him. It was just a night out with the guys, he said, shrugging. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I should have left then, should have packed my things and walked out with my dignity intact. But I didn't. Because I loved him, because I wanted to believe that people make mistakes and that forgiveness makes you strong. Instead, it made me a fool. The cheating didn't stop there. I didn't even have to dig, because once I opened my eyes, it was everywhere. DMs from random girls, mysterious charges on his credit card, whispered phone calls he took at 2 a.m. The final straw? Her name was Riley, and she wasn't just some random hookup. She was someone I knew, my cousin's best friend. She'd been at our housewarming party. She toasted us with cheap Prosecco and called us relationship goals. I found her earrings under the couch cushion. And still, he said, you're imagining things. I wasn't. I was just finally awake. And I wasn't going to cry anymore. I was going to destroy him. But here's the thing about revenge. Good revenge. It has to burn slow. It has to look innocent on the surface. So I smiled. I said I forgave him. I acted like I wanted to rebuild our trust. And while he was relaxing, thinking he'd dodged the bullet, I was building my plan. Brick by bloody brick. I wasn't going to just leave him. I was going to humiliate him, and I knew exactly where to start. His father. I had met his dad once, just once. It was Thanksgiving. Ethan had insisted we go to his mom's house, said his dad wouldn't be there. Divorce drama. Typical. But halfway through the meal, in walked Victor Hastings. Tall, distinguished, more salt than pepper in his hair. But damn, he wore it like a movie star. Tan skin, sharp jawline, a Rolex that said, I'm richer than your dreams, and a smile that held just the right amount of mischief. He shook my hand and said, So you're the one my son's been hiding. I laughed it off then. Just polite banter, right? But I remembered the way he looked at me. Not creepy, not exactly. More like, curious. And now I needed someone Ethan would never suspect. I reached out on Instagram first, found Victor's business account, some luxury real estate firm, slid into the DMS like a professional. Hi, not sure if you remember me. Thanksgiving, Chloe. I had a question about your office's open houses in the city. He replied within minutes. From there, it was a delicate dance. I played the polite, interested, young investor. Asked for coffee, then advice, then dinner. I made sure to keep it casual. No flirting, no pressure, just curiosity. Until he made the first move. It was late. We'd met at this rooftop bar downtown, one of those members-only places that smells like expensive cigars and old money. I wore a black dress, low back, nothing aggressive. Just enough to remind him I wasn't a child. He ordered bourbon. I sipped wine. He looked at me over the rim of his glass and said, "Are you here for real estate or revenge?" My heart stuttered. "Excuse me?" He smiled. "Ethan's not exactly discreet, Chloe, and you're not the first girl he's made cry." I swallowed hard. Then I said it. "I don't want to cry anymore. I want him to know what it feels like." Victor leaned in, his voice a low hum. "Then let me help you." From that moment, everything shifted. We didn't sleep together. Not yet. But there was a pact formed in that candlelit booth, unspoken, electric. He wasn't just a weapon. He was a co-conspirator. Over the next few weeks, we met in secret. He gave me intel about Ethan's business, his accounts, his habits, things only a father could know. At first, I thought Victor was just doing it for the thrill, or to get back at his son for some old grudge. But then I realized something darker. Victor wasn't helping me out of kindness. He was enjoying this. He was watching me become the version of myself that Ethan had tried to erase. Powerful, sharp, unafraid to burn things down. And when we did finally sleep together, it wasn't romantic. It was war. I won't pretend it didn't mess with my head. I was still in love with Ethan, or at least with who I thought he was. But every time I remembered Riley's earrings, or the glitter on his neck, or the dismissive way he gaslit me, I pushed harder. I made sure Ethan found out. I left clues. A text I accidentally sent to his number. "Had a great time, let's do it again soon." VA red lipstick print on Victor's collar, a dinner reservation on the joint credit card we never used, and finally a photo slipped into Ethan's briefcase. Me, Victor, hotel bed, no shame, the fallout, nuclear. He came home shaking, pale, screaming, threw a vase, accused me of betrayal, of being disgusting. And I looked him in the eye and said, "You did this to yourself." But I wasn't done. Because revenge isn't a dish best served cold. It's best served on live stream. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there in the dark, listening to the hum of the ceiling fan, the occasional passing car, and the rhythm of Ryan's breathing next to me. How could he sleep so soundly while I lay there, dissecting every moment of our relationship? Every "I love you," every "you're my world," every "you're the only one." All lies. By 6 a.m., I was up. Coffee brewed while I scrolled through his Instagram messages. I knew his password. Of course I did. He once told me, "Babe, if you ever want to check, go ahead. I've got nothing to hide." Liar. I scrolled until I found her name. Marissa. And not just her. There were more. A girl from his gym, a bartender he didn't even remember hooking up with. Even someone he worked with. A woman named Kelsey, who had sent him a very explicit photo the night before our anniversary. And you know what the worst part was? He saved every photo, every message, like souvenirs from his victories. I stared at the screen until the images blurred. My chest was tight, but no tears came. I was past crying, past begging. This wasn't just heartbreak, it was humiliation, a complete undoing of my identity. He had made a fool of me. But I wasn't going to stay the fool. The universe had handed me a perfect opportunity. I wasn't going to waste it. 2 weeks earlier, at his family barbecue, I had been introduced to his dad, Eric, mid-50s, silver fox, gym body, twice divorced, and unmistakably charming. He had pulled me aside at one point to say, "You've got a great head on your shoulders. Don't let my son take you for granted." I thought it was fatherly advice at the time. Now, I wondered if it was a warning, so I sent Eric a message. Innocent. "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for being so kind at the barbecue. It meant a lot. Hope your week's off to a good start." He replied within 10 minutes, and that's how it began. We talked about everything. Music, food, regrets, and of course, Ryan. I never explicitly said what Ryan had done, but I implied enough, and Eric, to my surprise, didn't defend him. "Ryan's always been a little too entitled," he wrote one night. "He doesn't understand consequences." That was the moment I knew Eric would help me give him a master class. The next weekend, I told Ryan I was going on a girls' trip. He didn't ask many questions, probably relieved he'd have a weekend to sneak around without suspicion. Meanwhile, I met Eric at a cabin he owned outside the city. It was surreal. We didn't plan for anything physical. I told myself this wasn't revenge sex. It was a shift in power, a psychological move. But we both knew what we were doing, and when it happened, it wasn't angry or rushed. It was deliberate. Quiet. Like we were undoing something Ryan had twisted. Afterwards, Eric looked at me and said, "I'm not proud of this. But I'm also not sorry." Neither was I. When I returned home, Ryan was waiting, smiling like the boy next door. "Did you miss me?" he said, wrapping his arms around me. I forced a smile. Every second. The game was on. For the next week, I played the part of the doting girlfriend. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his dumb jokes, let him sleep beside me like nothing had changed. But inside, I was building something, quietly, brick by brick. I kept texting Eric, but only during the day. We didn't talk about what had happened between us. We didn't have to. The silence was heavier than words, and somehow that made it more real. One night, while Ryan was in the shower, I found his old iPad in the bottom drawer of his desk, still logged into his cloud. Jackpot. I mirrored his entire photo gallery onto a drive, screenshots of sexts, voice notes, videos, even dates and location data that proved he'd been lying about entire weekends. I organized everything into folders, each labeled with a woman's name. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but it felt like loading a gun. The trigger would come soon enough. The following Saturday, we were invited to his cousin's engagement party. Fancy event, lots of family, people dressed to impress. Ryan asked me to wear that black dress he liked, the one with the low back and slit up the leg. I did. We arrived hand in hand, like the golden couple everyone envied, smiles, champagne, perfect lies. I spotted Eric across the room. He was talking to Ryan's aunt, but when he saw me, there was the briefest flicker of something behind his eyes. Recognition. Guilt. Lust. Maybe all three. Later that evening, Ryan stepped away to talk to an old friend from college. I felt someone slide beside me. Eric. "You look different tonight," he said softly. "How so?" I kept my eyes on the crowd, like someone who's already won. I sipped my drink. "Maybe I have." He chuckled, but there was tension in his shoulders. "I should feel worse about all of this," he said. "But you know what? Ryan's needed to be humbled since he was 16. Before I could respond, Ryan returned. "What are you two talking about?" he asked, suspicious eyes flicking between us. "Parenting," I said sweetly. "Your dad gives great advice." Eric raised his glass. "Always happy to help." The next day, I made my move. I posted a photo on my Instagram story, just a glass of whiskey and a man's hand resting beside mine. No faces, no context, just a caption. "Some fathers raise men, others raise boys." I watched Ryan watch the story. His whole face tensed. He asked who it was. I said, "Yannicko, just an old friend from the weekend." He didn't believe me. He started spiraling that night, accusing, demanding, snooping through my phone like a madman. But I'd covered my tracks. Nothing left for him to find. 2 days later, he cornered me in the kitchen. "Tell me the truth," he said. "Who is that man?" I looked him dead in the eye. "You want the truth?" "Yes." "Fine, I fucked your father." Silence. His face went blank, then red, then pale again. "You're lying," he whispered. "Am I?" He shook his head, backing away like I was a loaded weapon. "Why would you? How could you? You cheated on me with half the city. I just cheated better." He stormed out, slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. I didn't chase him. Instead, I sent a text to Eric. "He knows." He replied in under 10 seconds. "Good." Ryan disappeared for 2 days, no calls, no texts. His mom even reached out, asking if I'd heard from him. I didn't tell her what I'd done. Not yet. She adored me. I wasn't ready to change that. When he finally came home, he looked, broken. Not angry, just hollow. Like someone had sucked all the arrogance out of him and left a shell. "I want to talk," he said, voice low. I didn't move from the couch. "Talk then." He sat across from me, head in his hands. "I don't know who I am anymore." I tilted my head. "Because your dad and I slept together." He flinched like I slapped him. Yes. "But also, I pushed you there, didn't I?" I didn't answer. I just watched him. "I ruined us," he whispered, "and I can't even blame you." The silence between us was thick, heavy with things neither of us could fix. "I need help," he finally said. I raised an eyebrow. "With what?" "Therapy? Something? I can't keep being this person. The cheating, the lies. None of it even made me feel good. I just didn't know how to stop." It was the first time I'd ever heard him take responsibility. And for a second, a full, terrifying second, I almost felt bad. But then I remembered the girl before me, and the one before her. The weekend lies, the gaslighting, the way he'd made me doubt my own reality. And I knew this wasn't about healing. It was about damage control. "You don't get to be the victim now," I said softly. "Not after everything." He didn't argue. He just nodded, got up, and walked out the front door. A week passed, then another. He started posting quotes on Instagram about growth, forgiveness, inner peace. He unfollowed every woman he used to flirt with. He even posted a story tagging a therapy center. And yet, not once did he apologize publicly. Not once did he say my name. So I did it for him. I uploaded a video to TikTok, a simple voiceover, my face never shown, just photos, screenshots, the whole story laid out like a crime scene. Caption: "This is what happened when I got cheated on. I didn't burn his clothes, I burned his ego." The video went viral in under 12 hours. Comments poured in. "Girl, you're my hero." "She slept with his dad." "Iconic." "This is what playing with hearts gets you." I didn't name him, didn't need to. Everyone who mattered knew who he was. 3 days later, I got a message from his mom. Just 3 words. "You win. Goodbye." I cried. Not out of guilt, out of relief, because for the first time in months, I didn't feel like the one who had to carry it all. I blocked them both. He looked stunned when he walked in, like he didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or run. And I just stood there, right next to his father, smiling like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You wanted honesty, right?" I said, my voice calm but icy. "So here it is." Mark stared at us both, his face turning a shade I'd never seen before, not quite red, more like he was choking on his own disbelief. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His dad, bless his idiotic heart, looked proud, as if this wasn't the most twisted thing either of us had ever done. He even reached for my hand like we were some new couple celebrating a bold reveal. I stepped back. "This wasn't about you," I told him sharply. Don't mistake this for something romantic. It was a message, and the message was loud and clear. I turned back to Mark. He was finally finding his voice, but all he managed to croak out was, "How could you, Bane? You lied. You cheated. You made me feel worthless," I said, staring him down. "So I found someone who would make you feel the same." He opened his mouth again, but I didn't give him the space to speak. I wasn't done. "You used to joke about how you and your dad were so alike it was scary. Turns out that was the only honest thing you ever said." It wasn't just the act that broke him, it was the symbolism, the depth, the fact that his father had stepped into the role he had abused and abandoned, that his betrayal was answered with one that cut deeper than he thought possible. Because this wasn't just about sex. This was about power, about taking mine back. He stormed out, slammed the door so hard that a picture frame fell off the wall, and that was the last I saw of him for months. I expected fallout, rage, a screaming match, maybe even retaliation. Instead, I got silence, deafening, empty silence. At first, it was a relief, no texts, no drama. But then came the whispers. Apparently, Mark had spiraled, quit his job, moved out of town, cut off most of his friends. And his dad? Well, he tried calling me. A lot. I didn't answer. Because here's the thing about revenge. It tastes sweet only if you don't go back for seconds. I wasn't interested in a relationship with a man twice my age who thought this was some twisted love story. And I wasn't about to let Mark paint himself as the victim in a mess he started. So I deleted all my socials. Took a break from the city. I booked a flight to Lisbon, then Barcelona, then Istanbul. I saw the sunrise over the Bosphorus, sipped wine at street cafes in Montmartre, danced alone in dim clubs where no one knew my name. I traveled, I healed. I learned how to take up space again, my space. But life has a way of circling back. One morning, while on a solo trip to Denver, I got a message from a mutual friend. No words, just a link, a Reddit thread. Title: My ex slept with my dad to get back at me. AMA. It was Mark. He detailed everything, from the moment he found out to how he could never trust anyone again. He didn't name names, but it was obvious. The post blew up. Comments poured in by the thousands. Half were appalled at me. Half tore into him for being a cheater who got what he deserved. The internet, for once, was split in a perfectly even chaos. I read every word, sipping my overpriced Denver latte in a quiet cafe off Colfax Avenue. Then I logged in anonymously and wrote just one comment. Actions have consequences. Sometimes they're poetic. I logged off, never checked it again, because I didn't need closure. That was 2 years ago. Now, I'm in a healthy relationship with someone who doesn't compare me to ghosts or betray my trust. Someone who listens, who shows up, who makes me feel safe without needing to be asked. Sometimes I still get random DMs, strangers piecing together the story, trying to confirm the details. Some just want gossip. Some want to know if it's really true. I never respond, because this story isn't about a girl who went too far. It's about a girl who was pushed until she broke and decided not to stay broken, and I'll never apologize for that. After the Reddit thread exploded, I thought that was the end of it, but it wasn't. A week later, I got a DM from a podcast producer. Apparently, one of his interns had followed the thread, put 2 and 2 together, and pitched it as the perfect modern revenge story. They wanted me to come on. Anonymously, of course. No names, no faces, just your voice, Nai, he promised. You get to own your narrative. I didn't respond. I wasn't interested in turning my pain into someone else's entertainment, but the idea lingered. For the first time, I realized just how much power I still held. I didn't need to speak. I just had to live well and let my silence echo louder than Mark's sob story ever could. Still, the universe has a cruel sense of humor. Because about a month later, I ran into Mark's mother. At the grocery store, of all places, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked tired, older than I remembered. but her eyes, sharp and judgmental, locked onto mine the second she saw me. "You ruined my family," she hissed, without even a hello. I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. You seduced my husband, destroyed my son." I wanted to laugh, but I didn't. I just stared at her, calm and unblinking. "I didn't seduce anyone," I said. "I exposed the cracks that were already there. Don't blame me for what your men chose to do." She opened her mouth again, but I turned and walked away. There was nothing left to say to a woman who raised a son like Mark and married a man like his father. That encounter left a sour taste, though. Not because I felt guilty, because I didn't, but because it reminded me of how quickly women are painted as villains in stories men write with their own lies. So I did something I hadn't planned on. I wrote my own version of the story, not on Reddit, not in a podcast, but in a long, brutally honest blog post titled "The Cost of Becoming the Villain." I posted it under a pseudonym. No names, no locations, just the truth. I detailed everything, not to shame Mark, not to hurt his father, but to show how easy it is for a woman to be pushed into a corner and then blamed for clawing her way out. The post went viral, not overnight, but slowly, organically. Women commented things like, "I've been there, and thank you for saying what I never could." It was cathartic, empowering, for them and for me. Mark tried contacting me again, through a burner email this time. He said he wanted closure. I deleted it without reading, because closure isn't something someone else gives you, it's something you give yourself. And I had it. A year after everything, I moved again. A new city, a new job, a fresh start. I don't hide from the past, but I don't live in it either. I've learned that healing isn't linear. Some days I still flinch when someone says, "Trust me," but I'm learning, growing, reclaiming the parts of me that I gave away too freely. Sometimes when I tell people I'm single, they ask why. I just smile, because how do you explain that your last relationship ended in a plot twist worthy of a Netflix series? How do you explain that you once slept with your ex's dad, not out of passion, but out of pain? You don't? You just keep moving forward. One step, one breath, one story at a time. You know what people never tell you? That the hardest part of revenge isn't the act itself. It's what comes after. The silence, the questions you ask yourself in the dark, the second guessing, even when you know you were right. After I moved to Seattle, I tried to build a routine. Wake up, run by the lake, go to work, smile, make friends, live. But in the quiet moments, I'd still replay everything, like an old film reel I couldn't quite put away. The dinner when I first saw them together. The scent of that perfume. The way Mark had smiled when he lied to my face. I had no regrets, but that didn't mean it didn't hurt. My therapist, yes, I started therapy, once asked me, "Do you think he even understands what he did to you?" And I laughed. Understand? I don't think men like him understand until it happens to them. And even then, it's not about the pain, it's about the ego. She nodded, then said something that stuck with me. "Then maybe your justice was never about making him understand. Maybe it was about reclaiming your voice." That night, I started writing again. Not blogs, not Reddit, just for me. I called the file Recovery Log, and every day, I added one truth I had been afraid to say out loud. Truth number 1, I stayed too long because I thought love was supposed to hurt a little. Truth number 9, I slept with his dad not just to get back at him, but to see if I could still make someone feel something for me. Truth number 16, I am not broken. I am unfinished. Around that time, I met someone. His name was Eli. We met at a bookstore, of all places. I was buying a used copy of Sylvia Plath's journals. He made a joke about how it was a little intense for a Sunday read, and I told him I liked my literature like I liked my ex's, dark and complicated. He laughed. We got coffee, then dinner, then more. But I didn't fall fast. Not this time. I was careful. I asked questions. I watched for signs. I gave him space to show who he was, not who I wanted him to be. He didn't flinch when I told him I had been through something intense. He didn't dig, just nodded and said, "We've all got chapters we don't read out loud." We took things slow, no perfume, no red lipstick unless I wanted it, no ghosts, just us. For a while, I wondered if I should tell him the whole story, the messy, shocking truth. But then I realized something. I didn't need to, because who I was with Mark is not who I am now. And maybe that's the point. Revenge stories usually end with fire, with someone walking away from an explosion unbothered. Mine ended with a whisper, with silence, with a steady breath and a hand that wasn't shaking anymore. The more time passed, the more I understood that revenge had never really been about Mark. It had been about me reclaiming something he'd stolen long before he ever kissed another girl. My confidence. For so long, I had twisted myself into versions of what he wanted so subtly that I didn't even notice I was disappearing. A laugh a bit quieter, a skirt a bit shorter, a voice a bit softer. By the time I pulled myself out, it was like waking from a coma. My old self was blurry. My future self, still undefined. One night, Eli and I were on the couch watching some ridiculous dating show, the kind where everyone lies about their intentions and falls in love in 6 days. At one point, a contestant shouted, "Oh, you broke my heart." Eli laughed. "Man, they met last Tuesday." I smirked, but I also felt something tighten in my chest. I muted the TV and turned to him. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Anything. If I ever hurt you, really hurt you, what would you do?" He blinked. "That's a loaded question." "I know. Just, answer." He thought for a moment. "I think I'd talk to you, try to understand, then walk away if I had to. No revenge, no mind games." I nodded slowly. "Would you forgive me?" "Depends on what you did," he said with a half smile. "But I don't think revenge makes anything better. It just drags things out." I wanted to argue, to defend everything I'd done. But instead, I said something I hadn't said out loud before. I did something once. Something big. To someone who hurt me. Eli didn't react, just waited. "And I don't regret it," I continued. "But sometimes I wonder if I became the thing I hated, just long enough to forget how to be anything else." He didn't ask for details, didn't flinch, just reached out and gently took my hand. "Whatever you did," he said, "it's not who you are now, and it doesn't scare me." That was the moment I realized I didn't need to keep proving I was over it. I didn't need to tell the story again and again, seeking validation or revenge applause. I had done what I did. I had owned it. And now I could move forward. Still, curiosity is a strange thing. I hadn't looked Mark up in nearly a year. But one night, during a bout of insomnia, I typed his name into Google. There wasn't much. A few tagged photos on old friends' profiles, a blurry shot from what looked like a local bar trivia night. But there was one thing that caught my eye, a blog post. Not written by him, but about him. It was from a woman. Her post titled, "When he talks about his ex more than his mom?" I read it all. Apparently, she dated him. Briefly, said he was charming until he wasn't, said he had baggage he refused to unpack, that he mentioned me without naming me more than once, called me unhinged, claimed I'd ruined his life. At the end, she wrote, "Funny thing is, I think she's the only one he's ever actually loved, or feared, or both." I closed the tab, and I smiled. One night, I sat by the window with a glass of wine and thought about how quiet everything had become. No more chaos, no more plotting, no more obsessing over what he might say next or how I could outmaneuver him. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel empty without the noise. It's strange how much space someone can take up inside you without even being there. Mark had lived in the shadows of my mind for too long, whispering, mocking, echoing in the moments I should have been celebrating myself. But not anymore. Now I was filling that space with better things. With morning hikes, with messy laughter, with real intimacy with Eli. And I wasn't looking back. Still, I think the reason people resonate so deeply with stories like mine, stories of betrayal and revenge, is because we've all been there. Maybe not the same way, maybe not with the same scars, but we've all trusted someone who let us down. We've all imagined what it might feel like to show them how deep the wound really goes. And yes, maybe some of us have actually done it. But here's the truth. Most people won't admit. Revenge isn't about justice. It's about reclaiming control. It's what we do when someone shatters our reality and walks away without picking up a single piece. It's the scream when we've been told to be quiet. The fire we light in the ruins they left behind. It doesn't heal. It doesn't fix. But sometimes it frees. I don't tell this story for sympathy or praise or to be some viral Reddit thread retold on a podcast. I tell it because maybe someone out there needs to hear it. Maybe some woman is sitting alone right now reading suspicious texts or smelling perfume that isn't hers or questioning why she no longer recognizes the girl in the mirror. And maybe she needs to know that she's not crazy, that her instincts are right, that walking away isn't weakness, that rebuilding is possible even after you've burned everything down. My name is Chloe, and this was the story of how I taught betrayal what it really feels like. But more importantly, it's the story of how I taught myself that I am not the worst thing that ever happened to me, and I don't need anyone's permission to rise from it. Not Mark's, not his father's, not yours.